Well, hello everybody. Welcome to Life Coaching on the Move podcast. I'm your host, Dawn Fiske. Today I am making the most of this unexpected dry morning. We have just survived two of the worst storms ever here in the UK. 1 week after the other. Our woodlands, our houses, our streets, our fields have taken such a hammering. There is water everywhere. The fields are totally saturated. And yet today is just glorious. The sun is just rising. I'm in a forest, quite literally. In fact, if you hear noise in the background, mechanical noise, they are tree felling at the moment. So that is proof that I am absolutely in a forest. The birds are singing, so I thought I would cheer us all up and take us all outside to enjoy this better weather. You can even hear the pheasants, I think, in the background. Today I'm talking about stress, which is why I'm partly doing this outside today. Everybody feels so stressed. It is the subject that I am dealing with one-to-one clients so much at the moment. I'm stressed, I can't cope, I'm under pressure, I'm not sleeping, I'm not performing well. It's affecting my relationships, it's affecting my work performance and work relationships, it's affecting my appetite, it's affecting my general well-being, it's affecting my social life because I'm too tired to go out in the evening, it's affecting my sleep because although shattered, I'm thinking about work at night. So all in all, it is not a good picture. So I thought I would look at stress today. If you're new to this, hi there. If you're new to this podcast, then welcome along. I literally do not script write, as you just heard there. A runner just took me by surprise. Didn't know he was there. I just talk and think and just talk from my own experiences, those of many, many clients I'm working with. And we go on a bit of a journey on the podcast together. For those that are returning, thank you for coming back. Thank you so much for your loyalty and your commitment. I'm receiving great feedback, so thank you all very, very much for that. I so appreciate it. I do realise there are so many other podcasts out there for you to choose from, but currently today you've chosen mine, so I am privileged. Thank you so much. Drop me an email if you ever want to share anything that you've tried from these podcasts and it's worked, or a subject you'd like me to cover, or feedback about the podcast, then please do drop me a line at Dawn. The email is dawn@milestone-coaching.co.uk, and I look forward to hearing from you. Let me crack on now with today's podcast. So, as I've already mentioned in the intro, I'm outside. As you heard, I bumped into a runner. I'm so glad we did do that, actually, because we may draw on that example a little bit later in the content. So why are we focusing on stress? Well, as I said there in the introduction, it can be such a bleak picture. Stress can impact in all areas of our lives. It's not just at work or at home. If it's home stress because you're juggling children, running a home, perhaps got elderly parents that you're looking after. But I think it's true to say that our stress levels are probably at a peak in terms of the human race, or in terms of in the UK, America, Australia, that sort of thing. And yet, bizarrely, it should be at a minimum, because we've got better and more efficient transport now to get us to work, and cars, more access to our own cars, so therefore our own transport, we're in control. We've got better access to computers, technology, time-saving apps, everything is so much quicker, contacting people. We don't have to handwrite a letter, put it in the post, wait for a few days for it to be received, wait for them to respond, a few days to get that reply. Everything is so much faster, in fact, instant. We've got everything at our fingertips, knowledge at our fingertips, communication at our fingertips, planners, diaries, technology where we can do webinars and face-to-face sort of FaceTimes and see people without having to travel even. We can have round the table meetings with a whole group of people, work-wise, and customers and colleagues, and not have to move from our desk. So all the equipment in the household makes everything quicker. Better hoovers and vacuums, better washing machines. I remember the days my mum had to do all the household washing in a twin tub. I don't know if you know what one of those are, but it was a big device that she'd pull out from under the work surface. One side was an old washing machine. She'd have to open the lid and load everything in and fill it all up with water and soap, wait for it to wash, and then she'd have to lift it from there with big prongs into the next side, the side on the the right, I think, which was the spinner. So she would put the spinning thing on and then try and have to get it all dry. If it were a clear, dry day, great outside, but if it were wet and windy, inside. And we only had one open fire. We didn't have radiators or heating throughout the rest of the house. One room with some heating. So getting a family of fours washing was a mammoth task for her. Whereas now we just sling it in the washing machine. It just does the job. Many of us use our tumble dryers. I try not to if I can. But the tumble dryer's there if it's a really bad day, or we've got radiators or whatever. So, everything in theory is so much better. And yet, our stress levels are so much higher. And our mental health is so much worse. Depression is at the highest that it's ever been. Why is this? Well, there is a scientific fact, that stress affects our health. It isn't good for us. Stress can be a killer. It can affect our immune system. It affects our sleep. It affects our emotional well-being and our mental health. It affects everything. So I'm going up a hill. It's actually quite warm now. My hands are freezing, but I'm boiling. It is a serious condition. We can't just accept, I'm stressed, or work's stressy at the moment, work's busy. We need to actually help ourselves and put some stress management techniques in, and not just give in to it, not just accept, it's a fact of life. It doesn't have to be. It mustn't be, in fact, because it can affect our health, seriously affect our health. There are so many health conditions that are stress related. In fact, I may have said this on a previous podcast, but if I didn't, I'm going to say it again because it's such a powerful statistic. Do you know what percentage of GP doctor consultants here in the UK, consultations at the GP surgery, what percentage of them are stress related in one way or the other, would you imagine? You just come up with a figure. What would you anticipate to be the figure? And you may have heard it in a previous podcast, but it's actually 70% of GP consultations currently are stress related, because it can affect our breathing if we're stressed and anxious. So it's particularly if we're prone to asthmas and things like that. But of course it affects our breathing rate. It can affect chest pains and things like that, because it affects the heart rate. It can affect our immune system, so our blood pressure, our immune system, our likelihood of acquiring flus, coughs, colds. All of those are increased with stress, which is ironic, isn't it, actually, when you think about it? If you're stressed because of work and you're under pressure, got so much on, the last thing you want, ironically, is to fall ill and have a few days off sick, forced days off sick, because you've developed a bad bout of flu or stomach gastroenteritis or something like that. So another reason why it's good to stay well. Skin conditions, digestive conditions. I know that when I'm stressed, it goes straight to my stomach and I get all the IBS symptoms. So that affects your appetite, it affects your weight one way or the other. We often get all the pains. That gives us anxiety as well. What's happening? Why have I got these stomach pains? so on and so on. It gives you headaches, so your stress may go to your head, i.e. headaches. It might be your symptom, because each of us actually have a different kind of stress profile. When I run stress workshops and I ask the audience, how do you know when you're stressed? Get them to shout out their symptoms. I get all of these shouted out. I get headaches, muscle tension across the shoulder. So that makes us clumsy, which doesn't help performance if we're working with our hands, for example. Stomach problems, bladder problems, heart, breathing, heart rate, palpitations, problems breathing, which the minute you can't breathe, you then get really anxious and frightened by it, which is a vicious cycle, because then you can't breathe more because you're anxious and frightened, and it just gets worse and worse. It's the same with the heart rate. Once your heart starts racing, you think, oh my God, what's wrong with my heart? Am I having a heart attack? What's happening? You get frightened, and therefore your heart increases further. So all of these get worse by the actual symptoms themselves. So it's not a great picture, and I'm not apologising for painting such a bleak picture. We also, on top of that, have stress behaviours. And again, I open this up to the workshop. What are your stress behaviours? What do you do when you've had a consistent period of stress in your life? And often the same things come up. Increased eating, comfort eating. For some it's decreased eating. So they lose weight and they have less energy and they're less able to concentrate. All the ones that eat more and comfort eats, it's the wrong foods. Then they feel they're putting on weight, then they feel guilty and self-loathing, and that's, again, is a vicious cycle. For those that drink, it will be increased drinking alcohol to make themselves feel better and calmer. I need a glass of wine. I need a couple of beers. It'll make me feel better. It'll help. And maybe it does for a day or so, but for long term, that does not help. In fact, you're on your road to another problem. Others, it will be increased smoking. If they're smokers, if they're drug users, it will be increased drug use. So for many, it's withdrawal socially. They go into their shell. They're too tired to go out, too tired to get changed, or I'm not good company. I wouldn't wish this mood on anybody. I'm not in the mood for socialising. So they withdraw socially. They withhold from messaging. They don't instigate invites. Do you fancy coming to so-and-so? They stop doing that. They filter out their messages, screen out their calls, and just withdraw. Then I ask what their stress emotions are. How does it manifest itself emotionally? And there's a regular pattern that comes out there too. Whether it's increased tearfulness. I get very, very tense and end up crying, and then it was awful because I cried at work, and then my boss called me in, and now everybody knows, and that's awful now because you feel uncomfortable, awkward, you've become a bit in your mind. I'm not saying this, but for some clients, they say now they're embarrassed, they've become an issue, they wish they hadn't done it, etc., etc. But they couldn't because they couldn't help it because they were so stressed. It all just boiled over. It's like a kettle. It just boils and boils and boils up, or heats and heats and heats up until it gets to boiling point, and then all the steam releases. That's us. We can only take a certain amount, then it boils and boils and boils over, should I say. And then it's awkward. Or that it's emotional behaviour could be outbursts of anger. I lost it at work. I ended up shouting at somebody, or in the shop, or on the phone or something, or with the children, or at home, or with my husband or wife, or you're short-tempered basically and keep flying off the hook or snapping at people, and it feels awful, and then you hate yourself for it, and again you're in another vicious cycle. Other habits that some people say, I clench my teeth, or I bite the inside of my lip, or I bite my nails. All of those sorts of things start coming out when we're really stressed. It's not a good picture. So we have to start to manage it. We've got to bring some techniques in where we feel back in control, because you often feel out of control with stress. That's the first thing. That's the worst thing, actually. You feel out of control of your workload, out of control of your physical symptoms. They're controlling you, it feels. Out of control of your emotions, your sleep, everything. It's a horrible, bleak picture. So the first thing that us humans need to do is to get a sense of control. And to know that we can do something about it. So there are so many stress management techniques that we need to start applying, instead of become a victim of the stress and the workload or the pressures or whatever it is that's causing us stress. So first, it's an acceptance that actually I can do something about this. It's an awareness that, right, I'm no longer going to allow this to happen. I need to make some changes. I need to sort this out. That's the first step, because you are in control. The second step, actually, is the reverse of everything that you've been doing. The irony is that one of the best ways of reducing stress is to have social contacts, is to turn to other people, is to talk to it. Is to share how you're feeling. Don't go inward. Don't withdraw. It's very isolated. No man is an island. You need to turn to others. This is what used to happen, and I know I've mentioned this before, but we used to work together in big communities. We used to have our extended family around us, looking out for us, looking after us, working with us, supporting us. Aunts, uncles, cousins would be down the road. We'd be in and out of our grandparents' houses, those sorts of things. These days we're more and more isolated and socially by ourselves. Families are often across different towns at the other end of the country, or maybe in different countries. So families are often, not always, but often these days, further away, and we see them less. It's got to be a bit of a hike. It's got to be a planned event, 2 hours in the car with the kids to go and see the mother or something like that. And actually, the irony is that would really help, potentially, if you all get on. But the irony is that adds to your stress and your workload, because it's 2 hours in the car, then we've got to get there, and then it's 2 hours back in the traffic, and that can just add to it. Anyway, so we need to turn to our friends, the soulmates that we've got, the people, whether it's friends or relatives, whoever it is. We don't need to withdraw from them. We need to turn to them, talk to them, tell them how we're feeling, tell them the pressure we're under. Sometimes they can come up with great ideas. It's been so many times where I've been chatting to a friend, particularly a friend who may be in the same work, or be running their own business, or also be a parent, or also have elderly parents that they're concerned about and they're struggling with. And then by sharing our experiences and having a good cry or laugh together, you feel so much better. But they also can come up with some great ideas. So I've been trying X, Y, and Z. I've been doing this, this, and this. Or I've heard about that and I've been using it. It's been brilliant, and so on. So first, do not withdraw. Do exactly the opposite. I know for a while it feels better, but it truly isn't the answer. And even if it's not to talk about what you're going through, even if you don't want to do that, or it's not the right person, or it's not the right environment, maybe you're at a concert or a show or something, just being with other people and their energy, if they're not stressed, can cheer you up, can make you feel good, can give you a boost, a bit of a tonic, lift your spirits, and so on. So even if you just go out and have just a social evening out, a change of scenery, and human contact with those that lift you up, it will help. It also helps because it means you're not at home in your own head feeding your stress thoughts, because that's what we do. We go into our head and we just feed it and feed it and feed it. Oh God, I'm so stressed. I can't cope. What do you tell yourself? What story? If you remember last week, we talked about the stories that we say to ourselves, the words that we use, which are just a combination of letters. But they can be very, very impactful on us. This is another time where it can be really useful to be aware of what you're feeding yourselves and change those words and selections of letters. Because when I'm running the stress workshops and I get everybody to write down what they're saying in their head about their stress, or, what would I hear if I had a microphone in their heads and could listen, they write things down like, I can't cope anymore. God, I wish this roundabout would stop going round and I could just get off for a while. I'm too busy to handle anymore. No one else could help me with this. It's far too technical, or nobody else is skilled enough to help me, or no one would do the job properly. I'm at break point. There aren't enough hours in the day. How much more? When is this going to stop? Those sorts of thoughts. Well, how, as we all know through these podcasts, our emotions, our thoughts, feed our feelings and encourage our feelings and cause our feelings, and our feelings then impact on our physical performance and our ability to do tasks. If we're feeding those thoughts of, oh God, I can't cope anymore, when's this going to stop? I can't take much more, I'm at break point. When we're feeding ourselves those thoughts, how is that going to be affecting our performance? How is that going to affect how we're feeling? And then our tension and our stress is only going to increase it. It's only just feeding it and encouraging it and expanding it. It's causing it in many, many ways. So if we change what we're saying in our heads first, so be mindful of what you're saying in your head, because that will be directly causing an emotion and directly causing a physical response. So it will be feeding your symptoms. So the more you think, I can't cope with this, I can't cope with this, you're getting tension, you're tensing up, your muscles are tensing. So the tension across your shoulders will be affecting the blood flow up your spinal cord to your brain and the amount of blood that's flowing to your brain. Or, in fact, actually the amount that it's holding back and restricting because of the muscle tension. It's restricting the blood flow and healthy blood flow to the brain, which causes your stress headache, for example. If you change what you're saying in your head, you can help to change how you feel about the whole thing, which helps to change your physical response to it, and your muscles will relax and the blood flow to your brain will improve, and you won't get so many tension headaches. You won't have the tension in your jaw, for example. Those sorts of things. So by feeding it, you are, in a sense, not helping the physical symptoms. So we have to definitely change what we're saying in our heads. And therefore, going out with your mates and having a good old laugh, a good old social, and not necessarily even thinking, preferably not thinking, but not even talking about your stress levels, you are no longer feeding it. Even just for a few hours, it has a helpful effect. So the less that we feed those thoughts, the better. Or we change those thoughts. And I remember saying this before on a podcast, we say things like, oh, I've got to take the kids to school, I've got to go to the supermarket, I've got to phone my boss, I've got to do this, I've got to see that customer. And that even that makes me feel under pressure and stressed saying that. But if I change it to, I get to take the kids to school. I get to travel 2 hours in the car to this customer. And then you change how you feel about it. So you think, well, I'll listen to some good podcasts, some de-stressing podcasts, or podcasts about stress management. That's what I'll do. I'll start learning things about this, i.e. I'll feel in control about it. So you stop being a victim of your stress and you start to decide, I'm going to manage this. I'm going to learn techniques to get on top of this. And I'm going to stop feeding the thoughts. So instead of 2 hours in the car on the way to the client, feeding your stress thoughts, oh God, hope this is quick. I need to get on. I need to get back on the road. I need to phone that person. Don't feed it. Stop thinking about the stress. Stop feeding those thoughts and think of other things, or learn other things, or listen to comedy. Because laughter is another technique, another antidote to stress. Laughter and the power of laughter and the power of the smile is hugely helpful with reducing the cortisol levels. 15 minutes of good belly laughter and good fun laughter is found to significantly reduce the cortisol in our body, which is the stress hormone. In lots and lots of research, they have found that. But equally, it also increases endorphins in our body, which are our own natural chemicals, our own natural mood-lifting chemicals. So we need to, instead of feeding our stress thoughts for 2 hours on the train or whatever, listen to comedy. Download on your phone or whatever your device. If you're on a train, download some YouTube of your favourite comedy. There are loads of YouTube clips of all the comedians. Just download that, or a funny film, or a radio show, a comedy quiz radio show, or you need more laughter, and you need to consciously build that in, plan it in as a strategy. Or pick the friends, socialise with the friends that you know are a great laugh. They always cheer me up, they're great laugh, they see the funny side of anything, they've got an infectious belly laugh. I always laugh my head off when I'm with so-and-so. Go and see them. Remember, this is stress management techniques. You can't actually manage the stress. Well, actually, sometimes we can. We can reduce the workload. We can turn some projects down or whatever. We can manage our time. That's a different subject. And if you want some help on that, I do have a time management online program for sale. Just look at the website. I'll talk about that at the end. And actually, before I say it, you can't manage time. You can manage how you approach your time and how you use your time. But it's the same with stress. We often can't necessarily manage the stress itself, or the workload, or the fact that you've got children and a home to run and an elderly parent or two to look after. You often can't do too much about that. Although there will be things that you can do to lighten it. But what you can do is manage yourself. So, first, we've accepted that you need to feel in control. That's the big thing. Get a sense of control. Where can you control things? Second, you've got to change your thoughts and feeding those stress stories. They are stories, largely. And the more stress you feel, the more stressy those stories are. You just feed it and feed it. Break that. Even try doing the opposite and kidding it by saying calm and in control, calm and relaxed. So just say those things, as you know your subconscious doesn't have to believe it. Your conscious is different. Your conscious will question you and it'll feel wrong, but that's okay. That's not the driving force in this. Your subconscious doesn't question you, so if you tell it a million times, or often enough, and it doesn't need to be many times actually, but in the shower, when you're brushing your teeth, when you're stood at the sink washing up or driving along, calm and relaxed, completely in control. I'm coping, everything's fine, I've got this, I've nailed this. All those sorts of helpful phrases, then you will begin very quickly for your subconscious to take that on board and will change how you're physically feeling about it. But if nothing else, even if you don't feel comfortable with affirmations, positive affirmations, which are extremely positive and helpful in any regard. But anyway, if you don't like those, just feed it better stories, not the stress stories. Feed it completely opposite. I've got this, all under control, I can handle this, so on and so forth. And laughter. So laughter is a massive antidote to it all. Also, being out, you know what's coming, don't you? Because I say this virtually every week, but being outside in the fresh air, it helps your creativity. It helps you to think clearly. It gives you oxygen to your brain and your lungs. Helps you to breathe better. That's helpful and relaxing, as you know, because if you're stressed and you can't breathe properly because of the stress, get outside, get some deep air. And oxygen, so you feel better, you breathe better. So what I'm saying here is, when you're stressed, get outside in nature. Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh, great. So you're saying, when I'm under all this pressure with all of these plates spinning, I've got to go out for a walk. Yes, I am saying that. But I don't mean to say it insofar as you've got to, nearly tripped, you've got to put all your workload down. No. I'm saying build it into your workload. So walking, talking, meetings are a great thing, and they're really becoming the thing at the moment in business and in the in business world. So instead of sitting in a stuffy, hot, artificial lit room having a meeting, get your colleagues or your customer to go for a walk and talk meeting. They are becoming incredibly popular. Get your coats on, take a long walk, discuss that issue or discuss that contract or discuss that project, whatever it is. Go, and make it a brisk walk so that you are slightly out of breath, slightly. It will be productive. You'll be far more creative, I promise you. There is something about getting outside. You think more clearly. There is also a benefit to you not eye-to-eye contact with each other. Especially if you're having a slightly awkward, potentially awkward conversation. It's much better and more fruitful to have it walking side by side because you're not having intense eye contact and that pressure that comes with it. You also hypnotically, rhythmically get into a stride together, and there's a lot of evidence to show that that's helpful. And there's something therapeutic about that, and you get each other's energy, and so you kind of there's something about the connection that you have when you're doing that together. So I'm not saying take away from all your workload, but to build it in. If your stress is because you've got a house full of children, it's half term, they're cooped up, get them outside. So you're getting outside, you're getting the fresh air, which is de-stressing, and some movement, which also is hugely de-stressing, exercise. But you get outside, so get the dog, get the kids, get whatever it is, and go outside. Or if it's an elderly parent, take them out for a walk. It will make them feel better. But more than anything, you need to move. So, there's loads of studies. There were studies both in 2016 and 2017 that showed enforced sedentary lifestyle causes stress and low mental health, i.e. the potential for depression, brings the mood down. So where they did studies, controlled double-blind studies or whatever, all the right stuff, where one group they enforced sedentary lifestyle, don't move, don't do much, stay put, stop doing things, and the other group just carry on as before. And the group that they, after just 1 week of enforced sedentary lifestyle, their stress had decreased and their overall well-being had decreased, i.e. depression and mental health had been affected, detrimentally affected. So sometimes we have a forced sedentary lifestyle because of our work. We're on a train for an hour and a bit so, commuting. Then we're at a desk all day. We don't take a lunch break because we're too busy, we're too stressed. So we have our sandwich at the desk, still sitting. Then we're back on the commuter train for an hour and 40 minutes or something. And then we're so exhausted after all of that stress that we don't go out, we don't exercise, too tired, too exhausted, too stressed. I'm just going to sit and watch Netflix for the evening and chill out and relax and eat my stodgy food that I'm craving. You can see, can't you, how just after a week that increased people's stress levels profoundly and decreased their mood and emotional well-being. If we're having to do that because of our job, then we can see how that's going to impact. And if it's the elderly relatives that we're looking after and they're sat in all day in their home, and they haven't got, they're confined a little bit, or they're in a care home or something, they too need to get out and to move. We all need to move. Kids sat on Xboxes. My kids are a victim of this. Well, they're not a victim of it, it's self-created, but we need to get them out. Outside, fresh air, vitamin D, but movement. We all need to move. Hence why I've brought you on a dog walk today, even if it's just symbolically. So if you can combine that with your pressures, you will be helping those pressures. So combine it with walk and talk meetings, or make yourself go out at lunchtime and have a lunch break and go for a long walk. You will not suffer from the lack of those 45 minutes at your desk, which we wrongly think. We think we'll lose that time and therefore lose that output. No. All of the time management studies have shown that you gain that 45 minutes and more by going out for some brisk walking, or a jog if you can do a jog at lunchtime, or a class if there's a class near you, if you're in the city or something like that, or your organisation books a yoga class, or many big, large organisations do that. Take it up, go for it. Or if they have a gym, which many organisations do, then go for 45 minutes or a 30-minute fast run on the treadmill or something, shower, get back to your desk. You will gain that time and more with your productivity, not lose it. It will also help your sleep, which also helps your stress. If you sleep better, you wake up feeling more refreshed, and you can be more productive, and your stress starts to drop. So all of these things are in your control, and I come back to point one. Us humans are so much better when we feel in control, and we're so much worse when we feel helpless and a victim to our environment and our circumstances. It's horrible. That itself is stressful. So gain some control by deciding which of these stress management techniques you're going to use, and preferably all of them. The more mud we sling at the wall, the more likelihood that some of it will stick. So they're just a touch of the strategies. I've only given you a taster. If you want to look at this much, much, much deeper, then you can either work one-to-one with me, and I will repeat the offer. If you're a podcast listener, I am so grateful for your loyalty and following that I offer 10% discount on one-to-one coaching sessions to podcast listeners only. And the way you get that is by putting or saying the word, my dog's name, Millie. Then I know that you've listened to the podcast, and I will give you 10% discount on 2 coaching sessions. So if you want to work one-to-one on your stress with me, then look at the website www.milestone-coaching.co.uk and contact me via the website, and we can put those in the diary. If you're not local to me, that doesn't matter. We can do it via FaceTime or phone or Skype or any Zoom, whatever you use. If you want to go much, much deeper and you want to do this over a longer period of time, well, you could do that via coaching, one-on-one coaching. But equally, if you haven't got the time and you want the flexibility and control, you can do it on an online program, which is also on the website, which is at a reduced rate of $199 at the moment. And that is at least 7-week program. It's 7 modules, and I suggest you leave a week in between each module or slightly more to practice the techniques that you have gained from each module. It's a really in-depth program. It covers everything with me, and you can do it at your own pace, so you don't have to do the whole module in one hit. You can pause it, go off to your kitchen, get a cup of coffee, come back. So it's got much more flexibility in that way. You can do it in your own time at home. You can purchase it for a colleague in your team if you're concerned about them, and they can do it at work time in the boardroom or something like that over a 7, 8, 9 week period. So that is on the website www.milestone-coaching.co.uk and click on online programs. So I hope that's been really helpful. We've only touched on it today. There is far more that I can work with you on by either one of those methods. But I genuinely hope that it's been useful and that you start to get on top of your stress, because it is a killer. That's the worst extreme, obviously, but it is. And if you bring it back slightly from that, it can make you ill or affect your performance and affect your relationships and everything. It does have horrible consequences, and I really want for all of you to not have that. I want you to feel in control, well, productive, energetic, and and happier and calmer. It's got to be a better place, hasn't it? I wish the whole of the human race could calm their stress down. So maybe I'm on a one-man mission to do that. Anyway, if you feel this could be helpful to a friend, then help them download the podcast. Over 50% of the population still do not know how to listen to podcasts, and whether it's this one or others, there's so much helpful content out there. And if a friend or a loved one of yours is struggling with something, then there are podcasts that could help them. So show them how to download them for them if you can, because I know you've mastered it. Or take a screenshot of this one and put it on your social media so that your friends or colleagues who might be quietly suffering and struggling with stress or other things that we mention on here, they can tune in, listen, and perhaps gain some tips that will help them. So have a great week, a great calm, in control week, and I'm really looking forward to talking to you next week on the next episode of Life Coaching on the Move. Have a good week.